Hello, everyone. I have not published a podcast episode in almost a year, and I guess I'm back. So here we are. A lot has happened since I don't even remember when the last episode was published, but I'm back, and it's going to be awesome. So yeah, I don't really know what to say here. I guess this is just an introduction again that I'm pretty much back at podcasting-ish. I'm going to aim for once a week, but it might not happen every single week. But hey, at least I am back-ish. I have 3 interviews already lined up for the next 3 weeks. So those will be published really soon, and they're all awesome. We have a high conflict divorce coach, we have a neuroplasticity coach, and a narcissistic abuse recovery from your mother coach. I worded all of that not the right way, but whatever. You all know what I mean. So yeah, and then I'm gonna have other episodes where I'm just talking about a certain topic and all that kind of stuff. I'm planning on doing a lot less interviews, so if you are listening to this and you have a podcast and you want to be on each other's podcasts, right now I do not have the capacity for this. But maybe in the future. But right now, I'm going to be focusing a lot more on just topics rather than interviews of other people. So after those 3 episodes, expect to have less interviews and things like that. I'll still have a few here and there, but it won't be as interview heavy. So yeah. Let's talk about boundaries, I guess, because we might as well. It's a great topic to start with, and considering that, it's just been a while since I've done an episode, it's a great topic to start with. So, I know a lot of people struggle with setting and keeping boundaries with narcissists. It's a shit show, absolutely. And the thing that a lot of survivors do not understand is that the way that the narcissist reacts to your boundaries has actually nothing to do with you or the boundary. That was never the issue, and it's really not the issue. You're not the issue, and the boundary is not the issue. The issue is that they are so entitled to getting whatever it is they want from you. So let's just call it your energy, because it's narcissistic supply that they want. Imagine feeling so entitled to somebody's energy that you manipulate them by using fear against them so that you get what you want, right? And you probably can't imagine that because you're probably a normal person who is not a narcissist if you are listening to this. So yeah, it's not you. You're not the problem, okay? It's their mentality that's the problem. It's their sense of entitlement that's the problem. And unfortunately, there's absolutely nothing that you can do about them, because if there was something you could do about them, it would have worked by now. It really would have worked by this point. So, it's not that you're dealing with an idiot who doesn't know how to learn how to treat people properly. You're dealing with somebody who is making active choices and playing dumb so that they look like a victim and you look like the bad guy. And that's the objective here. That is what they want. They want you to believe that you're a horrible person and that you're making really horrible decisions so that it benefits them. Because if you really think about it and you really consider it, how does the narcissist benefit from you not setting and not keeping a boundary, right? And I just to make this crystal clear, if they're threatening you with physical violence or anything like that, this is a law enforcement thing. A podcast episode is not going to help you. A life coach is not going to help you. You need to get yourself to safety. So definitely explore any resources that are out there if you are not feeling safe. This is for anyone who's not being physically threatened in any way. So just want to make sure that that's crystal clear. So yeah, your safety is always number 1. Now, assuming that your physical safety is not at risk, then let's move on. So the thing that you need to understand, so if you're like terrified that the narcissist is going to be angry with you for setting a boundary with them, right? This is part of their manipulation. They want you to be afraid. People who are afraid are easier to control. That's just it, right? If you're afraid of making the wrong decision, you are going to go with whoever tells you the right decision is. And the right decision to a narcissist is whatever benefits them and screws you over and gets them the most narcissistic supply that they can get. So you need to understand that in order to understand why you are afraid, right? Because they want to intimidate you. They want you to feel terrified so that you don't set the boundary, or you break the boundary, or you realize what a horrible piece of shit of a person you are for putting yourself first and prioritizing your mental health, and how dare you do this for yourself, and you don't continue sacrificing yourself for this adult who just does not know how to behave like an adult. You are absolutely not responsible for the narcissist's anger with you when you set a boundary with them. They're just trying to intimidate you. They want to get their way, and yeah, they absolutely know what they are doing here. So if they're truly angry with you because you want to prioritize your mental health, they have to go sort out their anger and their other emotions, because that just makes absolutely no sense. If you put yourself in the shoes of somebody who, is being told that there's a boundary that's needed, are you going to get angry? Probably not. Maybe you'll be a little offended, right? Maybe you'll be shocked. Maybe, you genuinely didn't know, right? Like there's that rejection sensitivity stuff that definitely happens, but you're not going to get angry to like intimidate the other person into getting your own way. And anybody who does that needs to sort out their issues with those emotions. So it's the same thing for you. So if you're on the receiving end and you're offended by a boundary, or you have that rejection sensitivity, or whatever the case may be, it's important for you to also sort out those emotions, because, logically, I'm sure you can understand, and you probably like hold it in when the boundary's being set with you, which is totally fine. Like that's, the standard of how things go. We tend to bottle up all of our emotions, and, it's really, the issue is not that the person's setting a boundary, it's how you're reacting to it. So you would definitely want to work on your own emotions around that. So it goes the other way too. So the narcissist has to work on their anger or whatever other emotions are coming up for them. But obviously they're not going to do that because they don't do emotional work. They just project their shit onto other people, because for them, it's like, oh, well, I've just unloaded all my shit onto this person and now I feel powerful. It's not a normal way of thinking or being. So just be aware of how not okay it is the way that they behave. And they know what they're doing. And they're not doing this in like this weird trance state where they have no clue what came over them. They might try and make you believe that. But if, somebody's blacking out and like being super horrible to people, that's probably some sort of disease that should be taken care of, right? So you can definitely guarantee that they're completely fucking full of shit. But regardless, it is not on you or anybody else for that matter to sort out somebody else's emotions. We are all responsible for our own emotions, processing our own emotions, being okay with our own emotions, understanding our own emotions. And, you can definitely guarantee that the narcissist who's feeling slighted by you is going to, have a little hissy fit, be a little tornado of anger and bullshit in their own little corner of the world, and they will be back to using a different manipulation tactic soon enough to try and get supply out of you. So the faster you can become aware of this dynamic and of how the pattern is in your particular situation, like this applies to all narcissists. Like if it's a parent, if it's a significant other, whoever the person is, like it just all applies. They all kind of operate the same way. The tactics will be different depending on the relationship and the context of that, of course, but just, try and apply what I'm saying to your situation and you will be able to make sense out of this. So anytime that they communicate with you about your boundaries or how stupid your boundaries are, if they start like shaming you, try and pause, right? Don't react right away. They've trained you to react right away, and this is how they get their supply. So if you can separate yourself from your emotions, because it's so easy to get bamboozled in the moment, and they try to bamboozle your boundaries, and it catches you off guard sometimes, and that's completely normal. But it's important when you are caught off guard like that to actually just kind of pause, take a few deep breaths. You don't have to respond right away. And if you're like face to face with them, of course they're expecting a response, and you don't have to even give them one. Like, you can just say something like, okay, that's interesting that you think that, right? Like, do a gray rock. And, I have nothing to say to this. I'm going to continue with my boundary, and if you feel however you feel about it, that's on you to sort out, and then you can just walk away. It might not be possible in every single situation, obviously, right? But just having that sort of no fucks given attitude about it is going to be a lifesaver for you. And of course, it's so hard to do that when you do give several fucks about the situation. So this is why it's important for you as a survivor to do your inner work, and nobody can do that for you. So just getting started on some kind of inner work, whether it's just journaling or working with somebody, whether it's a therapist or a coach, just whoever it is you feel safe with, whoever resonates best with you, or you can do it on your own as well. It's free to journal. So it's really up to you what you want to do, but just starting somewhere, starting to get to know your emotions, starting to understand where you react and how your reactions are, what they are, and why you're reacting the way you do, just even analyzing the situation, right? So you can just think about it and brainstorm, like, okay, think back to a time when you tried to set a boundary with the narcissist in your life. How did they react? And how did their reaction cause you to react? And how did they benefit from you reacting that way? And was it probably designed to get you to react that way? Just being hyper aware of that is a big deal. And then you'll be able, and I'm not saying that this is an overnight process, okay? This is work. This is inner work, but it's so worth it. But eventually you will be able to just kind of objectively observe the situation as like an outsider, because you're not so in your emotions, because you know how to process them. And then you can actually see how absurd this person's being. You can see how much they are trying to manipulate and get their way. And the thing is, when you're stuck in that fear, that shame, that guilt, or whatever other emotions are coming up for you, and you're not processing them, and you're probably not processing them because it doesn't feel safe to, or the narcissist is telling you, you can't be angry for how I'm reacting. You can't feel this way. They like discount your feelings. They do this on purpose, because when you shut your feelings down and you bury them down and you ignore them, then you ignore the truth of the situation. So if you're pissed about the way they treated you, and this is why you set a boundary, and then they're starting to tell you that you can't be angry about how they treated you because you deserved it for some reason, then you shut off your anger. And that in itself distances you from the truth of what they did to you initially was wrong, right? So that anger is a message that you have been wronged, you've been disrespected, whatever the case may be, and whatever happened was not okay. But when you're not, quote unquote, allowed to feel that anger, then you just kind of gloss it over and you don't do anything about it. And then it just gives the other person the okay to keep disrespecting you in the exact same way that they have been disrespecting you. So this is why it's so, so important to get acquainted with the emotional work, with your emotions, all that stuff. And the more you can recognize these things and recognize like, okay, yeah, I was angry about that situation, but I was told that I wasn't supposed to be angry about it. So I just forced myself to stop being angry. And I really tried my best to understand, but now here I am setting a boundary. If you were dealing with a healthy person, like this just would have never become a thing to begin with, right? But when you're dealing with a narcissist, of course, it becomes a whole thing. And that's why it's such a shit show. And this is why I created a boundary bootcamp. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that really quickly. I've launched this a few times already. I don't think I've talked about it on the podcast before because I probably launched it after I stopped doing the podcast and just disappeared from here for almost a year there. But if you're following me on Instagram or you're on my email list, you probably have heard about it. But for anyone who has not heard about it, it's a 4-week boundary bootcamp. We're starting August 10th at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and we're going to meet every Tuesday for 4 weeks to learn all about boundaries and how to set and keep them with the narcissist in your life. So this is for anybody who, you've set a boundary and you did the right thing, but you just feel so guilty about it. Or maybe you have avoided setting a boundary because you just can't muster up the courage to put yourself first. Or now you're being put on a guilt trip after setting a boundary, whatever the case may be. And, no matter how nicely you try and set the boundary or how much evidence you've collected that it's time to prioritize your peace and your sanity, and no matter how nicely or how aggressively or how neutrally you tried to communicate your boundary, you just can't seem to make the narcissist understand where you're coming from when they tell you how you're such a horrible, horrendous person for having the audacity to prioritize your mental health. And that, that has nothing to do with you. That's all about the narcissist. But sorting out your emotions around it is super, super important. And this is pretty much how the bootcamp works. So for 4 weeks, each week we meet up for 75 minutes or so. Sometimes it goes a bit over. And the first half is the presentation, and then the second half becomes a group coaching / Q&A type thing where, anybody who's attending live can just ask any questions for me. And if you can't attend live, that's totally okay too. You'll get lifetime access to everything. And yeah, it's a great time. And then there's a workbook for each week of the boot camp. It's a really, really great little boot camp that I have here. So what you'll learn in week 1 is pretty much boundaries 101 and what they are, why you need them. And, what are boundaries, why you need them, why they're more crucial when you deal with a narcissist, what happens if you don't set them, and how to even figure out what exactly your boundaries are. And then week number 2 is all about understanding and outsmarting the narcissist. So you're going to learn how a narcissist's mind works, what their goals are, how they view boundaries, what to expect when you set a boundary with a narcissist, manipulation tactics and reactions to look out for and what to do about them, and how to deal with these tactics and outsmart them. Week 3 is deconstructing your limiting beliefs around boundaries. So this is where you're going to learn a lot about the inner work and challenge those limiting beliefs. So you're going to learn what it means, what even is a limiting belief, how narcissists weaponize your emotions in order to control you, how your repressed emotions and your childhood and the mind-body connection are all part of this. And if you have chronic pain, you know that there is such thing as the mind-body connection. And the resistance around setting the boundaries could also be influencing your physical pain levels. And then how to release those repressed emotions without re-traumatizing yourself and empowering yourself to go ahead and set that boundary. And then week 4 is all about keeping your boundaries once they've been set, no matter what. So this is where we go into how to actually communicate the boundaries with the narcissists. Some boundaries do not require any communication at all either, right? Like if you're gray rocking a narcissist and that's your boundary, you're not going to say like, I'm gray rocking you because blah, blah, blah. No, like you're obviously not going to do that. And then, keeping the boundary, whether the narcissist hears, understands, wants to hear or understand them or not, how to stick to those boundaries, no matter how much pressure other people might put on you to not keep them, right? So this is where like the enablers, the flying monkeys come in. Why boundaries need a consequence and what to do if you are tempted to break a boundary and to keep implementing the inner work well beyond the boot camp. So if this interests you at all, the link is in the description. You can click on that to get more information. And there is payment plans available if that is something that you need. So again, it's happening every Tuesday starting August 10th to August 31st, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and it's a great time. You don't have to prepare anything for it. You will get all the Zoom links when you sign up and reminder emails before each session. So all you really have to do is show up or show up to the replay, and this is going to be the last time I do this one live. I'm planning on making this into a course rather than a boot camp, but I might do some Q&As when it becomes a course, but that's not going to be for a while. It won't be until like the fall. So if you are interested in not waiting that long and showing up for the last live version of this is your chance, and it's going to be awesome. So yeah, that is all I have to say for today. The 3 interviews that I have been all recorded in the past year, so it's about time I post them. So definitely stay tuned for those episodes. They're going to be great, and stay tuned for this podcast not being dead anymore. All right, I want to say I'll see you next time, but that doesn't even make sense because this is a podcast. So until next time, I guess I will end this with. All right, enjoy the rest of your week, and I hope everyone is having a great day. Bye. Welcome to The Shift Show with Adriana Bucci. Join me every week to learn all about narcissistic abuse recovery, healing from physical and emotional pain after the abuse, and everything else to do with toxic people and how they affect your physical, emotional, and mental health. And no, you are not the crazy one. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Let's get right to it.